talking about is you as 8th graders. I'm sorry? You as 8th graders, we're going to talk about your first year as a high school student. So your first year as a freshman. So if you haven't met me before, if you don't know me, I'm Susan West. I'm your school counselor. I'm counselor for the high school. I've been in counseling since 2002, and I really, really love my job. So I'm really, really fortunate to be a person that enjoys what they're doing. I've gone ahead and I've included in this presentation my contact information. If you have any questions at all after we finish up tonight, please don't hesitate to send me an email or give me a call. I'm always happy to take your call and answer your questions. So keep that in mind, and we'll go ahead and we'll send out this presentation later, probably sometime tomorrow, so you can go back through it, review some of the information, and like I said, certainly give me a call if you need to. I also have lots of information on the counseling website, so you can certainly refer to that as well. That's off of the main high school page. So whenever I do this presentation, we like to talk about transition when you're either moving from kindergarten into middle school or from middle school into high school. There's just a lot of change that occurs, and sometimes that can cause some nervousness. So that's one of the reasons why we have presentations like this, to make sure you kind of know what's going on in your new environment and make sure you don't feel nervous about it. When I do this presentation, I like this metaphor that you can see here of a seedling. And if you attended the class today with Ms. Milky, we talked a little bit about it. But there's two reasons I like to talk about a seedling. One is because many of us have gone to, say, Home Depot and bought a beautiful little flower in a little plastic pack that we were ever so excited to get planted in our garden. And it's important to remember that that little flower is meant to come out of that pack. What happens to those packs, those little flowers, if we leave it in that pack and just set it in the backyard and maybe water it occasionally? That flower, because its roots are going to get all bound up, it's going to actually choke itself out. It's not going to grow as it's supposed to, because it's meant to leave. It's meant to go into a bigger environment. The same thing we have to remember when we're moving that little seedling into the garden is that we also can't just plop it down on the ground and expect it to thrive. That seedling is going to need support as it goes through that change. So as we're going through this change, let's just remember that we all go through change. You go through change now as students moving from middle school to high school. Adults go through change all the time, and it's always going to make us a little bit nervous. But remember, that's normal to go through change. Change can be exciting too. Change is an opportunity for growth. It's your opportunity to move out there, try something new, and become a more adult, more mature, more well-rounded person. So if we do it right, change is our opportunity to truly bloom and just become our best self. So keeping that in mind, we're going to talk about high school, your changes in going into high school. A lot actually is staying very much the same. So you're still going to go ahead and access your classes through Canvas. You're still going to go ahead and keep your SLA. So if you have Ms. Jepson now, you can keep Ms. Jepson. If you have Ms. Brown now, you can keep Ms. Brown. So you keep your SLA. You still have live core classes. So you'll still be logging on and interacting with your teachers for your core classes. You still get tutoring and support, so now you have study hall time that you work with your teachers. When you get to high school, it's not pre-scheduled for you. It's one of the things that you're going to do as a more adult, more grown-up student, is make sure that you're setting up those times to meet with your teachers, but you still have that support available. You still have plenty of opportunities to interact with your peers. So just like when you come in and you chat in your chat box, or I saw y'all doing in classes today. So there's the classroom opportunity to interact. We'll still go on field trips with the other students. So you have lots of opportunities to interact with your peers. So a lot is going to be really familiar for you when you move into the high school environment. what's new? So we do have some different teachers at the high school, and I put their pics up here. Sorry, my font was a little funky apparently when I bring my PowerPoint in. But you can see here we have Lee Cisneros. She is our English teacher. We have Miss Lori McCowie. She teaches PE. We have Brandon Doucette. He's our social studies teacher. Miss Katie Zander teaches math. And then we have two science teachers. We have Miss O'Donnell, who teaches science, and she'll probably be your freshman science teacher. We also have Mr. Eric Meinert, and he teaches some of our upper level science classes. So you may not have him next year, but you very well can have him later on. Another big change coming into high school is how you graduate, how you get promoted, and earning credit. So when you were in elementary school or when you're in middle school, you took classes, you took 6 or 7 classes at once, you got graded for those classes, and at the end of the year we kind of made a decision. Is this student ready to go on to the next grade or not ready? And of course most of the time you're ready and you get promoted to the next grade. High school graduation is a little bit different. What we do is that as you take a class, you earn credit. So a year-long class, like your English 9 class year, goes for a year long, and it's going to result in one credit. Courses that are just a semester long are half credit. So you earn credit as you take classes. Next year you'll probably take 6 classes all year long, and that way you'll earn like 6 credits. In order to graduate from the high school, at the end of 4 years, you have to have earned at least 22 credits. Keeping in mind that you normally take about 6 credits a year, so 6 times 4 is 24, so you actually should have more than enough room to fit in those 22 credits before you graduate. Do I have any questions so far? Okay, so the credits you'll need in order to graduate. Oh, and thank you, Mercy, I'll answer that. The credits you need in order to graduate, you need 4 English credits. Next year you'll take English 9, sophomore year you'll take Communications, junior lit year you take American Lit and World Lit, and senior year you have some opportunities for some different English electives. You'll need 3 math credits in order to graduate. That's going to include Algebra 1 and Geometry, and then you'll have a 3rd math class that's your choice. It has to be math, but you'll get to choose it. We need 3 science credits in order to graduate, including biology, but you do have some flexibility other than biology. You need 3 social studies credits, so next year you'll be taking world cultures, then U.S. history, then a semester of government, and then a semester of another social studies elective. So once again, your choice. One of the great themes of high school, and one of the things we're going to talk about tonight, is you do get a lot of choices in high school. You get to have a lot of influence over the actual classes that you take. In addition to those core areas, you do need 2 credits in PE Health, so that's specifically 1.5 credits of PE and a half credit of Health. Then the last thing you'll need is 7 elective credits. Remembering that our electives, we have semester-long elective courses, so a semester is a half credit. So in order to earn 7 elective credits, you'll actually take 14 electives from your freshman year to your senior year in order to graduate. So lots of opportunity to take in-stream classes that you just want to get into and take something that interests you. So this is a typical freshman schedule. You can see that the core classes are there. So English 9, Algebra 1. Most freshmen will be taking Algebra 1 as their math next year. So some of you already have algebra and will move into the geometry, and some of you may struggle with math, so you may be in pre-algebra. Everyone will take science class next year. Most of you will be in physical science, though some of you might be in biology. And then everyone will be in world cultures next year for their social studies. You can see then, if I go ahead and I'm planning on taking 6 classes at a time, that leaves 2 more spots, as you asked Mercy, for electives in a single semester. One of those as freshmen is probably actually going to be PE. So this one right here is probably going to be PE. This one over here is probably going to be health. You don't have to do it that way, but most freshmen go ahead and choose to start working on their PE and health credits at the beginning of their high school career so they can free up space for lots of fun stuff as they become upperclassmen. Any questions? Okay, and then this should look really familiar. This is kind of your typical virtual freshman's weekly schedule. And yeah, I'll ask that just questions. So the weekly schedule is going to look like this. You have a full 5-day work week, just like you would if you were in a brick and mortar class. You're going to take live core classes. So you can go ahead and see like English 9 meets twice a week, World Culture, you would meet twice a week live, Physical Science, you could meet twice a week live, Algebra 1, twice a week live. The rest of your coursework, you're going to schedule in your own study time. So once again, you have a lot of flexibility, but it is important that you do take time to make sure that you're spending at least 5 hours a week in each class. Sometimes if you're struggling, you would need to spend more time than that, but this schedule I put in front of you here is allowing for 5 hours overall for each class. So the question about PE and health credits, your PE and health credit is a separate 2 credit requirement. So if we go back and we look at these totals here, it's 2 PE health credits and then 7 electives. When we talk about electives, sometimes it can be a bit confusing. We use it 2 ways. Sometimes you have a class that has to be in a certain area, but you get choice about. For instance, you'll take Algebra 1, you'll take geometry, and then the course after that has to be a math class, but it's the math class you choose. So sometimes we talk about electives, they still have to be in a certain area, but you have control over exactly what they look like. These last 7 electives here at the bottom of those graduation requirements, you can take absolutely anything you want. It doesn't have to be in any certain area. You just get to take stuff you're interested in taking. Does that answer that question? Good. Okay, so speaking of electives, I thought I would go ahead and throw up just some examples of the different types of electives you can go ahead and take in the high school. And you can see there's quite a bit. So you can look at health careers options. So if you think you might eventually want to go into a health career, we have Health Science 1 and 2, Medical Terminology, Biotechnology, and even some other courses in that area. If you're interested in technology, you can see that there's a web design, computer science, C++ programming. So there's all sorts of technology classes. Maybe you're not interested in that. Maybe you're really interested in social studies and you're interested in being in law enforcement. So you can take criminology or law studies, psychology, sociology. So you can see there's just lots and lots of options. So this is just kind of some examples of what's out there. When we actually get closer to choosing coursework later on in this school year, you'll get the full course card and you can see everything. And yes, Mercy, there is an astronomy course. So there's all sorts of stuff you can take. If you want to start looking at it, you can go on your enrolled families page. And if you go down where it says documents, and I'll include this when I send out the email later with the presentation. One of them is the documents that you can download is the course catalog. The one that's up there now is the 15-16 course book catalog, so there's always minor changes. We'll review it again before we publish it for next year. But it's a great place to start just kind of investigating what electives are out there and what prerequisites they have, and has some good descriptions on it as well, so you know exactly what you'll be doing in the class. There's lots and lots of elective options for you to take for next year. Any questions about those electives? Awesome. Okay, so I do want to take some time to talk about some different opportunities to take of classes you can take while you're in high school. So not necessarily the ones next year, but ones that you can take sometime before you graduate. Mercy, I think there's Italian. Thank you, Miss Horn, for setting that up. There are several languages. I'm not sure if there's Italian. So one of the opportunities you'll have while you're in high school is to take AP coursework. And we have had some parents ask whether that's going to be available here at high school, and it is. So if you're not familiar with AP, AP stands for Advanced Placement. Advanced Placement is an opportunity to take courses in the high school environment, but they're taught at the college level. So it is a lot more reading, a lot more writing. It can be much more complex because it's already taught at the college level. But it's a really rich, really rewarding curriculum. It is a nationally standardized curriculum provided by the College Board. If you're familiar with the College Board, they're the same folks that make up the SAT, if you've heard of the SAT test. So it's a nationally standardized curriculum. Everyone studies the same stuff across the nation. You do get high school credit for it. But you also have the opportunity in May, you can choose to take the AP exam. When you take that exam, you're scored from a 1 to a 5, 1 being the lowest score, 5 being the high score, and generally scores of a 3 or better have the opportunity for college credit. So that really depends on the school that's receiving that credit. So some schools will look at your 3 and say, hey, that's good enough, we're giving you a college credit. Some will say, no, we really want a 4. Some others will say a 5. So it can vary what the requirements are of the colleges to actually award credit, but it is absolutely an opportunity for college credit. Another great thing about AP, even if you don't do well in the AP exam, there's been just hundreds of studies that show that students that take AP coursework, even if they don't do well in the exam, do much, much better in college than students that don't take AP coursework. So it's a great opportunity to grow those college readiness skills. There aren't many that we give as freshmen, but as sophomores, there's a world history AP, so that's an option. So that is something that to think about later on in your high school career, but do want to make sure you know about it so you can start planning on it and investigating that option. Any questions about AP? Okay, so there's some other options out there. One is youth options. That's only for upperclassmen. So you do have to be at least an 11th grader to take youth options. That basically means that you can apply to take coursework at a local college, but you also will earn high school credit. So you're trying to put together your old 22 credits, and that just kind of gives you the opportunity to double dip, to go ahead and start on some college coursework, but also finish up your high school coursework. Another program that's available locally in Ozaukee County, and we're trying to grow into other areas, so hopefully by the time you're an 11th or 12th grader, we'll have it set up so we have it in places other than Ozaukee County. But youth apprenticeship is an opportunity to be hooked up with a mentor and a career field you think you might want to go into after you graduate. So let's say you're interested in being an electrician, or you're interested in becoming a CNA, and going into nursing. What we would do is through this program is they hook you up with an employer in the area. They actually hire you, so it's a paid employment. And when you're in that job, you'll do projects for them, you'll do special presentations with them, and then in the end you'll also earn high school credit for that work you're doing in the youth apprenticeship. Some of you, depending on the program you're in, the CNA's program is one, may lead to technical college credit, and some of the programs can lead you into a professional apprenticeship. So there's some great opportunities through that program, and it's called a youth apprenticeship program. So that's also something to look forward to when you're an upperclassman. The last thing I want to mention is course options. We offer so much here at WVL. You get lots and lots of options, as we were kind of noticing when I was showing you your elective options. But if you have a course out there that you want to take, but it's not provided by WVL, you can apply to take that course through a school that does offer it. So a great example is that we have a student that's in marching band. So we don't have marching band here at WVL, so they participate in band at their home campus and take the rest of their classes through us. And we are able to award them that high school credit for band, so they also get that on their transcript. So that's course options. Once again, as freshmen, You shouldn't really need to go through course options. You should have most of the things you want, though a few things you might want to look at. The course option really allows us to be very flexible and to make sure you're getting the coursework you need and you're interested in. Okay? Any questions about those programs? Also, some reminders, we do have extracurricular opportunities here at WVL. We do have National Honor Society. We have a student council, so you can participate in student council. You'll still be going on field trips, just like we went to the Lambeau field early this year, and we're going to go ahead and go to the water park later this year. So we still have field trips. Some special things that are high school options. We do have a prom. We pair up with another virtual high school. We do have a prom. We have prom coming up in May. And of course, you also get a real graduation ceremony. So if we hold it here at Northern Ozaki, so you're welcome to come up and actually participate in the ceremony. You get to order your cap and gown. You get to order your graduation announcement and participate in that graduation ceremony. I'm not sure where prom is this year. I know it's in May. Maybe Ms. Horton knows exactly where prom is held this year. But it can move around and it's not necessarily in the same place every year. They do try to make sure it's fairly central so that it's convenient. Thank you. It's convenient for the different students that want to attend. Any question about those? So kind of going back to our earlier theme, I was talking about that seedling, moving into that garden and making sure we take care of that seedling. So we're going to go back now, that part of how it's important to take care. Just like when you plant that plant out in your garden, you don't want to just plunk it down on the ground. You do want to make sure it's well fertilized, that it gets watered. So you as a student, here are some tips for success. In high school. Some of these you're already doing, so it's going to be an easy transition for you. But here's some things that we recommend. One is definitely to develop and maintain a regular study schedule. So remembering that you only have live classes for your core classes. Only 4 of those classes are live and meet twice a week. So that leaves a lot of open time in your schedule. But it's really important you make sure that you go ahead and set up a schedule for you so that you're working on all of your classes throughout the week, even your electives. Your electives are totally self-paced, and you log on your own. No one tells you when you have to log into your elective classes. So it is really important to develop a study schedule. If that's a challenge for you, we at the SLA, your SLA can help you work out that schedule, but it is really important to develop that schedule. It's also really helpful to keep a planner. We do have paper planners we send out. We also, you have your digital options, so you have your Google Calendar. So you can also do your planner digitally in a program that you like or through your Google Calendar. That's really important to go ahead and make sure if you know you have a project coming up and when is the deadline for that, as well as the fun stuff like going to prom, going to Kalahari. So it is really important to go ahead and keep a planner, know what all is going on, and make sure you meet deadlines. It's really important to have a neat and quiet workspace. It's really common for, and feel forgive me, when you're teenagers, it's really common. I'll hear teenagers say a lot, well, I work best if I have my radio just blasting while I work. I really need music to relax. And actually, we found that largely, while instrumental music can help students relax, anything with lyrics tends to distract your concentration. So it is important to have a neat and quiet workspace. So sometimes music is appropriate kind of in the background or quietly, but it is generally you want to have a neat space with plenty of room to work and nice and quiet. Another really important thing to learn is to not procrastinate. That's a challenge for all of us, whether we're 8th graders or high school students or adults. But it's important to make sure you don't procrastinate. That's part of that planning and that study scheduling piece. Once again, particularly with those self-paced electives, it can be really easy to put those off. So that's something that the high school students sometimes do, but I'm sure you won't. So make sure you're not procrastinating. Make sure you get your assignments in regularly. You log into your classes regularly. You do want to maintain good communication with your teachers and with your SLA. It's really important. That's the next note down there. Always ask for help when you need it. Sometimes students are embarrassed to ask for help, but help is actually a characteristic of a really successful student, the ability to ask for help. Top students really know when to ask for help. Me, I already had to ask for help this morning, getting my mic on, as you can say. I had to ask Miss Milky for help this morning, getting loaded when we helped out in her classes today. So all of us at all ages have to learn to ask for help when we need it. Make sure if you're struggling that you do go ahead and get in contact with teachers and set up a time for tutoring. Also, be positive as you're working and reward yourself for all the big and little victories. So lots of us remember if we make an A at semester or if we make an A on our big old test to pat ourselves in the back and be happy. But it's important to look at every little victory. Sometimes just getting through a really long math problem and not pushing it aside and just getting all the way through it, that's a victory. And to go ahead and pat yourself on the back and go grab a soda or whatever you do in your house, a glass of water, to reward yourself. After that, have some ice cream. So make sure you celebrate those big things and those little things. Remember also to think future forward. So you have 4 years left coming up of high school. So it's important to think about what am I going to take next? Why am I taking what I'm taking? What do I want to do after I graduate? What do I want to study? And while you certainly don't have to have an absolute certain plan yet on what you want to do after you graduate or what you want to study or what you want to do for a career, it's so important now to go ahead and really start thinking about that, thinking about what exactly you might want to do. Start thinking out electives that are going to help you, thinking about electives that are going to help you work toward your different goals. So remember to always keep the future in mind, and that really can help you stay focused, especially in those times where you're getting a little frustrated and you're kind of struggling. For the parents out there, I have some different tips, and many of you, once again, are probably already doing this, and you can see my little icon down here on the lower right, that guy balancing out things. That is the real challenge of having a high school student, is that we're trying to do two things. One, we're trying to go ahead and help them grow to be independent, because after they graduate, they're going to either be going off to college or maybe moving into their own apartment. So one of our real goals of high school is to teach independence, but at the same time, they're still not adults. So it's important to provide support systems still to make sure that they're still being successful, that you're checking in on them. So my note here is to help your child build skills for independence. So that's things like calendar planning. If they're not really sure yet how to make that Google Calendar work or how to interact that calendar with their phone, if they have a smartphone, helping them get their desk space cleared up and organized and useful. Those are really great things to help your child learn how to do, so that you're not having to do everything for them, that they're learning how to do things for themselves. Also communicating with teachers. This is a great age level if they're not already, but if a student is asking you, the parent, about a class, or is this the right way to do this, or when is this due, it's a great time to say, oh, I don't know, what did your teacher say? And have your student go ahead and make sure they write their own email to a teacher asking a question. Maybe have them CC you as a new activity for them so that you can go ahead and monitor that, but encourage them to take on those responsible actions for themselves. Same thing with communicating with their SLAs. Encourage them, if they're not ready, to email their SLA. And then if they still struggle after that, always it's your job as a parent to step in. But it's definitely time, if they haven't been communicating on their own yet, to let them start taking those first steps. Another good thing to do, as I was talking about earlier to the students, is have a system of rewards and consequences. So rewards don't have to be huge and consequences don't have to be huge. Rewards can be, well, you made that A on that test that we're talking about, so you get to pick out the pizza topping this week when we order pizza. Or you get to go out for ice cream on Saturday. They don't have to be huge rewards, but making sure that as your student is successful in school, we give them those tiny celebrations. It's really easy, especially when we have good students, to just kind of assume that they're going to be good. But it's important to continue rewarding them and patting them on the back when they do something well. Consequences are also important too, and they don't have to be terrible. But sometimes we'll set up things like Maybe they have to take out the trash more often if they didn't get a homework assignment in. Building in those just kind of natural consequences if they're struggling, so they have an idea. If I do well, I get rewarded. If I'm struggling, I might have some consequences. It's great when consequences, though, can have opportunities for pride. So if I had my child go ahead and rake the leaves as a consequences, then I get to go out and say, wow, that yard looks great, you did such a good job. So even if they messed up a little bit and had a consequence, it's an opportunity for someone to celebrate them doing well. So once again, it's a lot about balance. Also, as we move into high school, I do encourage you as parents to check your school email regularly. I send out personally a lot of information that way, and as we go into high school, we'll have opportunities, particularly if we get to be upperclassmen, there's opportunities for scholarships and for summer programs. We'll send out information to things like those youth apprenticeships, so make sure you're always checking those emails to make sure you're learning about those important things and meeting deadlines if there are some. The other piece is the kind of a trust but verify piece. And that is, while we want to check in with our students and say, hi, how are you doing? Occasionally it's great to go ahead and have them log in. They have different systems they work in high school. Sometimes they'll be in Canvas. Sometimes they'll be in a program called FuelEd. So there's sometimes you may not know exactly how to log in, but have them log in for you occasionally. Just kind of take a look around, see how they're doing, see what their work looks like. So that's a way to kind of just keep that safety net going for them. You don't have to constantly be over their shoulder, but it is important to go ahead and check in occasionally and make sure they're doing well. And also, of course, we do have an SLA, so we still will continue to check in with you on your child's progress. And once again, if you have questions, you can always ask your SLA earlier if you need to see how things are going. Any questions about that? Well, that's the end of my formal presentation. If you have any specific questions, something that came up during the presentation but you didn't get a chance to ask that question, is there anyone who has a question now?
Well, I just want to jump in and thank Mrs. West for doing this presentation. Hopefully this was helpful and it was a great introduction, so thanks actually for putting that in there, taking the words right out of my mouth. We're thinking the same. And it was a great introduction for you into the high school. We are here, we are able to answer questions, so after this presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to contact Mrs. West, your SLA, myself, give us a call or through email, either way, and we will help you out the best that we can. So hopefully this was informative and you enjoyed the presentation. We will be posting this later tomorrow, so if you want to go back over anything or see anything, you should be able to see that too. But if you have questions, feel free to ask, and we will stay as long as you have them. And of course, if you don't have any questions, you are free to X out. Thanks for coming and have a great evening.